Not to brag, but I had an absolutely amazing reading year in 2023. I read so many books that I thoroughly enjoyed or absolutely loved. And so I'm going to be sharing my thoroughly enjoyed list with you today on the Rose at Home channel. I am Rose, I am at home, and if you are someone who has watched my channel before or recently, you know that I had said I was going to do a 4-part series including the books that didn't work for me, the books that were just okay, and then my super enjoyed and my absolute top reads for the year. And I will tell you, I actually filmed those first 2 videos and then just didn't feel comfortable with it. I'm not a hate channel, I'm not a dislike channel, I'm not a focus on the negative channel. Do I give negative reviews when I do my monthly wrap-ups? Yes. If there was something that didn't work for me, I do share that. But putting that together all in one video, or taking something that someone spent months, if not years, working on and saying it was meh, it just made me feel icky. And so I debated and ended up deleting those. So that's why we're a little short on videos this month, and that's why the first 2 videos of this series are not happening. So if you're wondering what I don't like, just go back and watch the monthly reviews and you'll see that. You will probably also see those books in an unhaul, which I think, gonna film, and I don't know. We'll see how I feel about it. But for today, the good thing is that I'm going to talk to you about the books that I super enjoyed, that were just so much fun, and I had just an amazing time with. This is actually going to be 2 parts. So the pile was huge. So I kind of separated them out into, if someone asked me which was my favorite book of the year, I would have trouble picking between these. That's the next video. Or the ones that were just like, I had the world's best time with these, I strongly recommend them. They're just not in that other pile, but that's nothing against them. It might have been the time I read it. It might have been lots of reasons. So, and I just had to kind of split this up into 2 because it's a lot of books. So without further ado, the very first book I want to talk about is Advika and the Hollywood Wives by Kirthana Ramisetti. And that's the cover. This was the very first book I got from Book of the Month. I got it when I signed up, so I got it for that promotional, and I really liked it. The Goodreads reviews aren't great, but I enjoyed this. So premise-wise, there was a young woman who was in a very close family, but her sister died in a freak accident. The parents couldn't handle it and left the country, literally. So she's lost her sister and her parents in their close family. She's completely alone in LA. She wants to be a writer, but she is struggling. She's got some depression issues, and this older man comes in, sweeps her off her feet. She ends up in this big mansion without privacy. So it's got a lot of, if you like Gothic, it's got a lot of the Gothic tropes to it, but she's a little more savvy than your run-of-the-mill Gothic protagonist. And so I think that's why I liked it, because I sometimes have issues with the women in the Gothic novels being kind of dumb and she makes stupid decisions, but I understand her stupid decisions because I understand where her mental health is. And so I really enjoyed it. It was one that I had trouble putting down. I had a good time with it, and I really recommend it. Ignore the Goodreads reviews on this one. This one was great. The next thing that I really enjoyed was Emily St. John Mandel's Station 11, and I have the hardcover. I got this when it first came out. It sat on my shelves for a while, and I finally read it in 2023. And right when I finished it, I know for a fact, for a while I was calling it my favorite book of 2023. The reason it's in this stack and not the other one is because it hasn't stuck with me. I don't remember a ton, and so I can't give you more than basic premise as far as plot. So basically what's happened is there has been an apocalyptic event, and we are years past it, and there is a traveling troupe of Shakespearean actors with an orchestra that goes around to the settlements of the survivors and plays for them, and there is like bad stuff and bad people and that kind of thing. But I wish it would have stuck with me more. the good side of this is I can reread it because I don't remember a ton from it. And so that will be fun for me because I know that I loved it. I just don't remember it very well. And that's why it's here and not in the other list. But I do super, super strongly recommend it. It was really good. I know it was really good. I remember absolutely loving it. It just hasn't stuck with me. The next book that I so much enjoyed is Dust Child by Phan Mai. Pretty sure I got that right. And this was so good. The only reason I think that I had to make decisions for all of these books. I couldn't call them all my favorites. The only reason that it's not over there is because the book she wrote before this one, And the Mountains Sing, I liked that one better. That was one of my top books it still is one of my top books of all time. And so this one wasn't quite there, but that nothing against this book. This is still really strong. She's a brilliant writer. So the premise here is it deals with it's got multiple perspectives. One of them is an older gentleman who was a Vietnam veteran who is going back to Vietnam. He wants to go back because he is pretty sure he has a child who would now obviously be quite the adult, middle-aged, but he's pretty sure he abandoned a child there and he wants closure, but he hasn't told his wife that that's why they're going. Apparently, at least in the world of the novel, and I haven't done research outside of it, that this is something that many older, well, obviously they'd be older now, but Vietnam veterans have been going back to try to get that kind of closure, to kind of see it. It's even at the end of The Things They Carried, Tim O'Brien goes back and takes his daughter and he sees it without war and he sees it what the country is now and all of that. So that's in there. There is a set of sisters whose family farm is falling apart and they're being bullied and basically kind of are under the thumb of like a local cartel kind of thing, like a mafia kind of thing. And the dad owes them money, and so the sisters end up going into Saigon to become tea servers is what they believe is going to happen, and then what all happens with them. It's really good. There's other perspectives too. It's really good. All of these stories do end up winding together. It was a little more separated than The Mountains Sing. There were multiple stories, but they were all in the same family, so it was easier to connect the dots. It takes a little bit for all of the stories to come together in this one, and I think that was part of the reason it didn't quite get to favorite status for me, but it's still brilliant. It's still so good. If you like war stories, or if you like Vietnam War stories, this is the other side. This is the side of the people, just like In the Mountains Sing, and I cannot more strongly recommend it. The next book was one that was picked for book club, and I think reading it for book club also helped it really fall into this category, and it is Peter Swanson's 8 Perfect Murders. This was so much fun, especially not knowing for sure how reliable this narrator is. I really liked not being sure what he said that I could trust and not trust, and that made it that much more of a fun ride. So the premise here is that this gentleman who works in a bookstore, he made this blog post when he first started, and it was, these are 8 murders that in his opinion are perfect. Well, a cop comes to him and says, hey, we think someone is actually committing the murders on your list. Can you come and help us? And so he ends up intertwined with all of this, and you don't know what does he have to do with it, what doesn't he have to do with it, what's going on. It's so much fun. I had a great time beginning to end, and at the end, we all in book club were like, but what if it really seems like, and then we were like, minds blown as to what could have been really happening, because we don't know 100% because we can't really trust him, and that made it a good time. It is one that I still think about. The next one was the quintessential, pretty perfect beach/summer read, and it was Elin Hilderbrand's The Hotel Nantucket. And That was just the best thing in the middle of summer. It is set through the summer. The premise is that there is a young woman whose boyfriend and her just, I think they were fiancé maybe, or they were very intertwined in each other's lives. They've been living together. He was stepping out. She found out. She broke things off. And she takes a job as the hotel manager for a brand new hotel, the Hotel Nantucket, which was bought by some British billionaire, and he wanted to get these 4 spoons, I think it was, as of a perfect rating for a hotel from this online travel blogger that's anonymous. And so they're trying to make everything perfect. You got all of these different hotel people coming in and out. You've got dealing with her personal life. There's a romance bent to it. Like, there's so much going on. It was so much fun to just spend a couple of, like, I think it took me a little under a week to read this, but to spend that time at this hotel with these people was so much fun. I had a great time in it. I don't know that it would be as much fun not in the summer. It's kind of you got to have those vibes. But this was a great time, and I strongly recommend it. I think, because this was my first Elin Hilderbrand, so I think what I'm gonna do is like try to just get one per summer, and because from what I understand, she's doing one more, or maybe she's done and she's retiring. So I've got her whole back catalog to read, and so one a summer, and I've got years and years and years of fun summer reads in front of me now that I've read this. 2023 was the year that I realized that The House in the Cerulean Sea is not the only cozy fantasy book out there, and that other folks do it and do it really well, and that I really love that genre. And so this is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I really had a good time with this. I really enjoyed it. It was a little slow for something as short as it is. I thought I'd get through it faster, but I had a good time. I enjoyed the characters. I'm someone who, when I play D&D, I have just as much fun doing the role playing in the town and going to the stores and getting supplies and dealing with locals as I do when I play the fight scene, like the big battles and all of that. Like both are entertaining for me. I have a different type of good time, but a really good time. So if you're like me and you're not just there to kill things when you play role playing games, but you like the go in the town and meet the locals kind of stuff too, you will love this book. So it's basically, there is an orc who has retired from adventuring, and she wants to open a coffee shop because she discovered coffee with these gnomes and nobody else really knew what it was, and so she was going to introduce people to coffee. And she's, at first everyone's like, what are you doing? We don't know what's going on. And she ends up like making friends, and then there's this guy who makes pastries and he's amazing, and it's just fun. Yes, stuff happens, so it's not cozy like nothing ever happens. There are things that happen. There is kind of some bad stuff that happens. There are stakes that come into play. But it's, for the most part, it's just like a cozy, we spent this D&D session in town buying supplies and meeting locals and singing at the local pub. That's what this is. And if that's fun for you, then I think you'll really like this too. Generally, I don't go for horror, but I did in this instance, and I'm really glad I did. And it is Dead 11 by Jimmy Juliano. And so this is kind of mystery, definitely horror, very culty. So what's happened is our main character's sister, her son had passed away, and she got it in her head to go to this island that's completely isolated, that not many people come in around. Her brother, a month later, is trying to get in contact with her. No one can find her. No one can reach her. It's like she's gone to that island and disappeared. So he goes to the island to try to find his sister, and everyone is super cagey. Everyone is super closed-mouthed. People are like pretending like they don't know who she is, or kind of refusing to talk to him. and everyone is really weird. They dress like it's the early to mid 90s. They rewatch VHS tapes of things from the 90s. They only have 90s technology. Like, it's this super weird cult. Like, the part that always gets me is that their folks have the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase on VHS and watch it over and over and every night, the same thing. And there's like a particular basketball game, they watch the same game over and over and over. So it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And so he's there, and the reasons they think they're doing it, the reasons they're really like, there's so much to it. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it's really good. And if you like that kind of mystery to the horror element with some culty stuff, you would love this. This was great. The next one, also kind of horror, and it was a pick though for our mystery book club that I'm in through my local independent bookstore. And it's called Shudder by Ramona Emerson. Let me show you that right there. It's so good. It is so good. It is graphically violent at the very beginning. It doesn't recopy that, like you don't get that level of graphic bloody description in the rest of the book. And we discussed it in book club, and we think it's because she wanted to get it done. She wanted you to know, like, hey, this is how graphic this stuff is, and then you could kind of picture it easier as you're going through the rest of the book. So she is a crime scene photographer who can see ghosts, which is probably not a very good combo. She also is Navajo, and she grew up on the reservation with her grandma until later on, and stuff and things happened. And so grandma is in here. In book club, we're all like rooting for grandma. We all love grandma so much. There's a medicine doctor in here who's a friend of grandma's, and then we've got her. Well, the very first case that she gets sent to is a car accident, but like the woman was thrown off a bridge into like bridges of traffic, and she fell to the next level of traffic and was basically like in pieces everywhere. And that's the part that there are multiple pages of very, very explicit graphic description of the parts of this woman and all the pictures that she's having to take. And so yeah, if that will really bother you, but the rest of the book sounds like awesome for you, you can skim that. It's okay. But I think the author just really wanted you to get how gritty and nasty this job is for our main character. So the ghost of that woman is there, and she realizes that the protagonist can see her, and she latches on and will not leave her alone until she helps her solve what she says is her murder, but everyone else is saying is probably either an accident or suicide. And so we go through the whole thing, like who did it, why they do it, who's coming after who, blah, blah, blah. It's so good. There's so much, it's not long, and yet there's so much going on. It's really tightly written. It's really, pacing is just top notch. It was so good. I had a super good time. Okay, the next is one that I was really looking forward to. I almost got it through Book of the Month, but I knew that it was the beginning of a series, maybe a trilogy, and there's no guarantee that Book of the Month will pick up the others, and because it matters to me if I have a matching set, I bought it separate, and it is Chloe Gong's Immortal Longings. The reviews on Goodreads weren't super great on this one either, and I'm not quite sure why. I really enjoyed it. So in this one, the premise is that there are people in this world who can body jump, and there is also a pretty much Hunger Gamesian competition where basically you have to be the last one alive in this of the contestants, but you're not in an arena. You need to be everyone is out in the city, and you have to find the other contestants, and you have to kill the other contestants, and then when you're the winner, when it's down to the last few, they call you back, and then you fight to the death in this arena kind of thing. And so it's really, really good. It moves really fast. I'll be honest, it hasn't stuck with me a ton. I feel like when the sequel comes out, I'm probably going to need to reread, because other than like the main two characters, I don't quite remember everyone that much. I guess if they're dead, I don't need to, but the ones that are alive feel like I should know who these alive people still are, and I don't. So that's part of why it's over here and not over there. I did have a really good time. I do think it borrows a lot from other things within the genre, but then kind of puts them on steroids. So like, it's Hunger Games, but I feel like the violence is that much more graphic, especially because it's adults and not children. So it's adults who kind of signed up because they like the idea of killing a bunch of people for money. And so it's more graphic in that way, but it's still got that kind of standard storyline that isn't super unfamiliar with this type of fantasy novel. And so that's probably why it's not in the other pile, but I really enjoyed myself. I do absolutely plan to read the rest of the series, and I think if you like that kind of, if that's something you can slip right into and escape the world, that type of graphically violent fantasy novel, then I think you'll like this a lot. The next thing I really, really enjoyed was a reread, and I reread this so that I would be fresh on the characters to read the sequel. Spoiler, not a spoiler, the sequel is in the favorites of the year, but the first one in this was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I really did enjoy this. I'll admit I enjoyed the reread better. It's dense, there's a lot to remember and a lot to hold on to, so the fact that I had already read it once as I was reading, it was refreshing my memory, and I could just enjoy the story without trying to hold on to a ton. It is here and not over there for kind of that reason, and also because, personal opinion, Leigh Bardugo is best with an ensemble cast. Leigh Bardugo can write a full ensemble with everybody fully fleshed out and all of those found family relationships and all. Like, she does that chef's kiss. That is her wheelhouse. This doesn't have that. Pretty much through, I'm going to say like 70 to 80% of this, our main character, Alex, is alone. And she has no one to help her, to rely on, and that kind of thing. And that's not Leigh Bardugo's big strength. So I couldn't connect as much. I wasn't as sucked in and emotionally invested with it just being the one. Yes, I cared about her. I cared about her a lot, but I still, when I read the second one and it fixed that, and suddenly I was like, oh, this is why I love Leigh Bardugo. This is what Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom is. This type of all of these people all at once, all such individuals, yet all being this great fit, like that was there in the second one. It wasn't in the first, and that's why it's in the, I really liked it, but it's not in the favorites. But if you liked this, but you are unsure about the next one I promise you is, it ratchets it up there. We get all of the things that Leigh Bardugo is the best at, and still get all of the good things that are in here as well. So I really liked this, don't get me wrong. I just really loved the next one. The next thing that I really enjoyed, I got at a book signing event for this author, and I told the story of everything that happened at that book signing event, so go watch that video if you haven't seen it. I want to say it was my September book haul, and it was hijinks ensued just at the author event. But this is Anne Cleeves' The Raging Storm. And I liked this. I liked this a lot. It had a lot of the things and mysteries that I do like. What kept it out of the next pile is it was very, very find someone, interview him, find someone, interview him, find someone, interview him. And it wasn't only that, but it was unbalanced in that way, and that's not my favorite thing in mysteries. I like when things, yes, we're investigating, but we also organically kind of discover things, and there was a little too little organic discovery and too much, I'm gonna talk to this one, talk to that one, you talk to this one, talk to that one, and we're just asking people questions, and it just got that was a little much for me. But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the setting, was so well done. It was fun. It was enjoyable. I did buy the first 2 in this series, and I think I'm going to give them a go and then decide if I want to move on after that. The next thing that I really, really liked was one of my holiday reads, and it was Christina Lauren's In a Holidaze. They write great things. If you don't know, Christina Lauren are 2 different people. One is named Christina, one is named Lauren, so they write together. So they write all sorts of kind of lighter romance. This is really strong. So what happens in this, we've got this young woman who is really kind of unhappy in her life. Most everything is going wrong. She discovers on the last day of a Christmas holiday that the place where her family has always gone for Christmas, they are going to sell it, and this was her last Christmas there with all of these people that she loved. She kisses the brother of the guy she likes by kind of accident, and she's not interested at all. She shuts it down, but not before the guy she actually likes see it. So everything is just topsy-turvy. They get in the car to leave, and she asks kind of fate, can you just show me what I really want, what I really need in life? And they get into a car accident. So she wakes up on the plane going to the vacation. And so she keeps Groundhog Daying, where it keeps restarting and restarting. And she realizes that when she's screwed up is when something happens that sends her back to the beginning, and she starts it all over and all over and all over. So she's trying to get through the holiday, get past the point where the accident happened, and basically fix her life. And it's way fun. I super enjoyed this. This was a great time. I will be honest, I did just read it last month, and I just had to refresh my memory in the front tab, so it didn't stick with me a ton, but I still had a really good time. So if you're seeing this and you're already planning for next holiday season, I strongly advise this one. This was great fun. It was a fun, lighter holiday read with some real stakes and some real problems and people to really get invested in. The next book was one that my son had gotten me. I really enjoyed this, and it is Mark Lawrence's The Book That Wouldn't Burn. It was crazy long. It took me forever. So I started it near the end. Actually, I think I started it near the end of my Thanksgiving break. If you're not in the US, a lot of places where I work, it gives us the week of Thanksgiving. And so I think I started it like the day after Thanksgiving. And it took me into like the second week of December to finish because it's so long. But I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of world building, and that does take a good bit of time. But I super enjoyed these characters. I super enjoyed kind of the back and forth. I almost wish it would have switched back and forth a little bit faster, because you got multiple characters with multiple chapters with this character, then multiple chapters with that character, and I think it might have helped to jump back and forth a little bit faster, maybe. I don't know. It was so good though. I wouldn't want to mess it up. So probably my idea would have not been a good thing. But so basically what's happening in this book, there is a young man who's spent all of his life that he can remember from childhood living in this colossal library. It is ginormous. And he is always searching for a way out. He's like, we are inside. There has to be a way to get to outside. And he can never find it. There is a machine that to me sounds amazing, where you carry a book into the machine and you get to like live out the book. I kept thinking holodeck from Star Trek kind of thing. Because I know there was one episode where the guy like programmed in books and you get to go and be a part of the book story. So, but I think if you take like nonfiction if you take something like textbooky, you come out with all of that knowledge in your head. So they've got that. And that thing kind of ate him. I'm trying not to give spoilers, but he'd been in there for years. He got spit back out. He does not remember before going in there, but he gets spit back out with 4 other kids. So the 5 of them kind of grow up together as siblings. They have kind of android robot kind of things that are taking care of them, make sure they're eating and all of that stuff. And they grow into adults. So there is also a young woman who grows up in what is called the Dust. It is outside the city walls. She's on a little settlement with people. They have like one well that is super, super deep, and water is very, very scarce because they're in the dust. And this, like, I don't even know what to call, like a tiger looking thing, but walking on two legs and talking some language, shows up and basically like takes all the kids and basically destroys the settlement, and she's kidnapped. And then so we follow her and her life from that moment, and we follow him and his life as he's growing up through the library. It's really long, and I'm super excited to see what happens next. I don't know if there's a possibility for them to be quite this long, but it was a good time. I kind of wish that I had waited and just picked it up at the end of December. Honestly, I think I would have read it faster because I would have had more time to devote to it, because trying to read it and trying to do end of the school year stuff at the same time was a bit much for my head. It's dense. For it being so long, it is also super dense. And so if you've got the time and the emotional energy to invest in it, it's wonderful. The writing is superb. It's just chef's kiss in many, many ways. I am looking forward to the next ones. I can't wait to see kind of what happens. Part of me feels like it's going to be like a Ninth House to Hellbent kind of thing, where I really, really liked the first one but loved the second. That's what I'm expecting, and so I kind of can't wait for the next one. Okay, the next really, really liked is another Christina Lauren, and it is the Unhoneymooners. Let me put that right there. Cute, cute cover. This is light, it is breezy, it is hate to lovers romance. So what happens in this book is there is a young woman whose sister is getting married to this guy who's kind of a jerk, and he has a really good friend. And our protagonist and his really good friend do not get along at all. He was really, really rude to her the first time that they met, and they've never gotten past that moment. So at the wedding, the caterer serves a fish dish, and everyone except for the protagonist and the friend eat the fish dish. And everyone gets like horrifically sick. There's some kind of weird disease you can get from fish, and everybody gets it. Everybody's vomiting constantly, like to the point of being hospitalized. The only people who are okay are the sister and the friend. And so the honeymoon is non-refundable. And the sister is like, just go take my ID. Like, we look identical. It's going to be great. And the friend, I think he's a friend and not a brother. He might be a brother though, because he's also able to use the ID from the groom. So the two of them go on the honeymoon so that it doesn't just get wasted. And so they're in the same honeymoon suite. They're trying to like do their own thing, but of course they're kind of getting drawn together and then pulled apart and then drawn together and then pulled apart. And it's fun to just watch the whole thing. And it's got that whole misunderstanding trope in it, which is in so much romance. That part, I get a little annoyed with that. I'm like, just speak plain, just tell people, like, don't be so cagey. But it was good. I really enjoyed it. And I very much suggest, if you like light, fun romance, especially when it's enemies to lovers, I think you'll really like this. And finally, the last book that I really, really enjoyed of 2023 is Iron Flame. This goes the opposite of Hellbent and Ninth House. So I loved Fourth Wing. Loved Fourth Wing. I got a Fourth Wing sweatshirt. I went to the party for the release of this one. I didn't love this one. This one is not on my like favorites. Like, I'm not having trouble deciding which of the two I like better. I like that one better. That one I thought was stronger. But that doesn't mean I didn't love this one. It means that I just loved that one so much more. Like, I loved that one so much, it would have been nearly impossible to top. nobody has those expectations. But anyway, I'm not gonna talk too much about plot in this one because it is the second in a series. But basically, the Iron Flame novel, fantasy novel, it is adult. There is a lot of spice. There's more spice in this one, and I don't like gratuitous spice. Like, I didn't mind the spice in the first one. I'll be honest, I skimmed it a lot in here because I didn't, like, we get it. Like, I don't need the description of it. I'm good. When they were first coming together, it made more sense, but this one I was like, okay, let's get there. But anyway, so basically what happens, there is a young woman whose mother is forcing her to go to dragon rider school, even though she is physically not built for it and is almost completely ill prepared. She didn't know until 6 months out, when most of the other kids who are there have been training for this since they could walk. And so she gets there, and the person who her mother killed his father is there, and also one of the people in charge. And she knows that he hates her. She knows that he's going to try to kill her at any chance that he gets. And so she's got all of this stuff against her, and she's trying to just stay alive and trying to get through this school and trying to live. And that's the first one. This is what happens after all of that. And I'm not saying that it's a bad book by any means. This was still really, 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 really good. It wasn't in my meh pile and it wasn't in my not for me pile. It is in my really, really good. It's just, I did like the other one better. I thought the other one was stronger, and I didn't like the ending. That's my last kind of memory of it. The last thing that I held on to was, I was like, no, yuck. But anyway, I am waiting with bated breath for the next one. I know there was a lot of like controversy about the release of this, and people were getting messed up copies and things were happening, like yada yada yada. So I'm fine with her taking her time and she and her publishers taking their time and doing what needs to do to put out the best product possible. But when it comes out, I am going to be at that release party. I'm going to be super excited to get a hold of that book because I do love this series. I just didn't like this one as much as I liked the first one. Okay, y'all, that was 15 books in my really, 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 really liked it pile. 15 out of 52. And I will tell you, I can't decide which of these is my favorite of the year pile is just as tall. So if you are interested in that video, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and also hit whatever that little bell is so that you get a notification when that video comes out, because that video will be next. And in the meantime, I hope that you have an absolutely amazing rest of your week and that you get to read some really amazing books. Bye, y'all.